Characters with split personalities are nothing new in Honkai. Usually it's simple to tell them apart, but could you still say the same thing when we got Vill-V coming in with 8 personalities? The unique thing with her that sets her apart from the likes of Sele, Kiana or Fuhua is that she voluntarily chose to do it. Today we'll look at what led to Vill-V becoming what we see in recent story, starting from her time before she joined Moth to what she went ahead and done with her split personality shenanigans. Before she got picked up by anyone, she was a fraud at Sundown Alley, which makes her, I believe, the 4th Flame Chaser alongside Vill-Vs, Carapace and Aponia to have their roots in Sundown. To describe her life before Moth, it would be like parkour! When she eventually got caught, she then started to make up a pro-engineer persona for leverage, I guess. But she did teach herself how to create cool engineering stuff though. Later then she decided to square up against Moth because she mistakenly thought that they caused the second eruption, the previous era one. Keep in mind Moth used to heavily censor information on Honkai so that could make them look sus. Understandably, a single individual could not hope to stand up to the might of Moth, but that's not to say Vill-V wasn't a huge pain in the rear for them. When she got caught, Moth were ready to put her through their signature activities like Mantis Roulette. But luckily a pink-haired lady Alicia stepped in to try and bring her into the Moth instead. Of course it wouldn't be that easy because she still needed to go through a thorough review process. While in the meantime she would be exiled to a random island in the Pacific, where when people came back to check on her, they would find that she managed to fashion handmade force multipliers to arm the local monkey population, and I hope she never comes anywhere close to my country. After this intense job interview arc, Vill-V got accepted into Moth as an engineer and got to work on creating interesting stuff like divine keys, usually under Dr. May's supervision. Imagine you are Dr. May and you see this new supposedly genius recruit using these rare Herschel cores to create wonder weapons with questionable effectiveness like the Astro Express or Minecraft World Edit. Little did May know that these were surprise tools that would help them later, but for now she slashed Vill-V's budget by 80% and put her through much supervision. But wait, there's more. Vill-V also have a tendency to blow up her lab, which results in more budget cuts, which then prompts her to go steal materials from other departments, which in turn results in even more budget cuts, which then made her inventions more unsafe, which, you got it, more budget cuts. Because after all, work safety precautions are just suggestions, just like the Geneva Convention.
High explosive.
Who can forget such incredible inventions like the fully automated audio data transcript mapper with fireworks launching machines? Because Vill-V likes a good game of hot potato, but the potato is her persona, which is why we get these ridiculous gadgets because they were basically made by a high school group project with a direction as firm as me when I look at my life. But still, she could make something usable with the prerequisite that all the personalities get bored and dump all the work into the expert personality, which then brings us to the 8 personalities. Vill-V had a talent for pretending, which in a way doesn't look that different from having a split personality. She used to do this because she had low self-esteem, which serves as a perfect pretense for splitting up her mind. Once she got the ability from her mantis surgery, she could leave one for her hardworking nerd side, one for the slacker, or one for all the hate, which could not possibly backfire in any way, shape or form in the future. In a way, a method to achieve desirable performance. Vill-V had a total of 8 partitions, which she then could split more to exceed, but that would reduce her from genius to stupid. The partitions includes the Conductor, Magician, Expert, Occultist, Chef, Original, Villain, and lastly, Kevin Killer Mark V. One thing to notice that the written name for the personalities are different depending on the occasion, which I've left them here on screen. Some of it was withheld for plot reasons, but then there's the Chef and the Occultist that were just straight up written differently when we actually meet them. Why couldn't they just use a consistent name to avoid confusion? I don't know, could be a translation thing. But anyways, let's start from the top down. The conductor was introduced as plain Vill-V as the distinction was given way later. By far the most similar to the actual Vill-V. If you ask them to see her manager, you would find that the conductor was the manager because she's the one responsible for dividing up Vill-V's mind, except for herself because it was the original Vill-V that did it. More on this in a bit. The great magician is, to put in simple terms, her troll side. You can easily tell her apart by her bubbly attitude. The expert is her nerd side, who was the one made to do all the work, which has contributed to her being perpetually grumpy. These three are who we see the most often, as the rest isn't usually needed. They do pop in here and there, but it's nothing compared to the big three. Moving to the less common personalities with the occultist, sometimes called the scholar. She's also her nerd side, but more quiet, with less work. She talks like she's writing a poem. The chef predictably cooks. One of her most notable contributions is making Carapace regen potion taste better. The original is what became of the actual Vill-V after she splitted her mind and gave the authority to the conductor. After doing this, she then proceeded to go inactive forever, unless you count her sim in recent story, which would make that a 50,000 years laying dormant. Her soft-spoken tone is her most distinct feature. She saved May in chapter 30 by being the last personality standing after the villain killed them all. Yes, all. But that's because the personalities we know were extensions that drives the system of Vill-V. The game compared it to spider legs, removed them, but the base is still there. And a spider just happens to be Vill-V's mantis form. So what went down while fighting the villain was that the OG Vill-V just repetitioned every lost personalities to fight her, which established the fact that the personalities can die and can be replaced. Like that one time the expert decided to dip herself into the Hershey of Binding Field, but she managed to survive by doing a switcheroo with the personalities after they would die, which somehow bypassed the binding effect. The conclusion was that the field has a limit, like is this some kind of foreshadowing? The villain was the personality chosen to be the goat for all her negative thoughts. For 50,000 years, the negative emotions bottled up has made her into a cartoonisty, evil thing. While she didn't do anything back then, today she have committed the most inexcusable crime of touching pedophilia, and I have not a single ounce of sympathy for this piece of.
I felt like something broke in me.
She's the trash can for the unwanted stuff in Vill-V's mind, which outside of the intrusive thoughts also includes Aponia's discipline, making her the only person to have fully gotten rid of its effect. Her only drive is to cause chaos, so she collaborated with the Hershey of Corruption and killed all the other personalities. Of course, she missed the actual Vill-V, the one that no one knew about. Lastly, and perhaps the most interesting, Kevin Killer Mark V, who we didn't actually get to see at all. Nobody knows when she was made, what she does, or how she is, outside of being shy. Her name implies that there were multiples, of which there were thousands. You might think it's a no-brainer for why they were made for, but this term can be given to many things that wasn't made with only beating Kevin in mind. Like her discount sundowner attachment, Carapace's battlesuit, Mobius's suitcase, the Genshin twins, but some that comes close like the Mark 666, who Vill-V has given the exclusive right of activation to Elysia, is basically a self-destruct button to the Elysian realm. Vill-V was a genius, but ain't no genius gonna save you from the Hershey onslaught. First off, she felt super guilty about that time when her nukes got hijacked by the Hershey of Corruption, who then used it to wipe what's left of her civilization. At this point, defeat is looking more like a certainty. The guilt-ridden Vill-V then took the fifth or the Ice Divine Key and made it into something that would save people like cryopods. Some people say it was the frozen Nakara that was converted, but its description states that the weapon still exists today. So no, we don't actually know what the Divine Key looks like before the conversion. Oh, and remember that satellite Divine Key? It has the power to terraform, which can be used to fix the devastation caused by the conflict. And that's how it would be. Survivors were to hibernate using the cryopods, while in the meantime, the third Divine Key satellite would work to bring the Earth back to a state where life is possible again. The final battle on the moon ended in total retreat for whoever's left after the fight. One of the many casualties was Vill-V, who in her death has left many things, like the Divine Key technologies, that would become a great asset for future generations, regardless of whether or not she deliberately intended for it to be. While Vill-V looks down on herself as being a fool that kept up a genius appearance to cover up her insecurities, she has undoubtedly played a huge part in passing the torch to the new generation in her own race. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe to enable this to reach more people. Until next time.